Welcome, everyone, to episode 2 of Midnight Mysteries, a series that'll cover dark, strange, and disturbing mysteries. I'm your host, Scenic Midnight. Let's delve in. In this episode, we will be looking into the mysterious death of Cynthia Elizabeth Hack James. On June 8th, 1989, in Richmond, a suburb in Vancouver, British Columbia, a quiet city would become the stage of a mysterious death. Shocked and horrified, the residents of Richmond discovered a body lying in the yard of an abandoned house. The body would soon be identified as Cynthia James. Cynthia James was a 44-year-old behavioral administrator for a preschool in the area. She had graduated nursing school in 1966 and married a man named Roy Makepeace. In July of 1982, her and Roy separated. When the body of Cynthia James was discovered, officials found her with her hands and feet tied behind her back. Further examination showed that she was drugged and then strangled to death. Despite the evidence pointing at her death being a murder, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police believed her death was the result of an accident. This isn't the full story, though. Before her death, Cynthia James was a victim of harassment by an unknown individual. The harassment wasn't anything new to her, though. Back in November 1982, just 4 months after her divorce with Roy, she would receive mysterious and threatening phone calls. And over the course of 7 years, she would report almost 100 incidents of harassment, 5 of which were violent attacks, while others were phone calls of whispers and silence. Cynthia would get the police involved, but after this, the incidents would seem to get worse for her. She would begin to hear someone creeping around her house at night. She would find her porch lights smashed and phone lines cut. On some occasions, dead cats would be left in her yard, and her dog was nearly strangled to death. Angie Woodcock, a friend of Cynthia, would report that she would receive strange and bizarre notes. The words on these notes would be pieced together with letters cut from a magazine. She believed someone was trying to scare her, and out of fear, she was reluctant to give further details, and police doubted her stories. January 1983. Angie wanted to pay Cynthia a visit and decided to drop by her house during the night. She proceeded to knock on the door, but no one answered. Assuming Cynthia was taking a bath, she wandered around the house and came across Cynthia crouched down with a nylon stocking wrapped tightly around her neck. Her story of the incident was she had gone to the garage to grab a box, when out of nowhere, someone grabbed her from behind and wrapped the nylon stocking around her neck. The only thing she saw of the assailant was their white sneakers. After enduring the constant violence and harassment, Cynthia decided to move homes, paint her car, and change her last name. She would also hire a man named Ozzy Caban as a private investigator to help catch the person responsible. Continuing investigations, police would question Cynthia several times on her harassment reports. But according to Ozzy, Cynthia would withhold information and dodge questions the officers would ask, and, quote, not act as a normal victim would. Cynthia would also be given a polygraph test by police. The examiner would also claim that she was withholding information from police. Tilly Hack, Cynthia's mother, believed her daughter was holding information due to fear of harm falling on her family if she was to name the suspect. January 30th, 1984, Ozzy began to hear odd and strange noises coming from a two-way radio he had given Cynthia for the case. Ozzy immediately went over to Cynthia's house. Upon arrival, he found the house was locked and proceeded to look through her windows, and what he saw prompted him to break into the house. He found Cynthia on the floor with a paring knife stabbed through her hand. She was quickly taken to a nearby hospital. Cynthia stated she had no memory of the attack, but later she was able to recall being stabbed in the arm with a needle during the attack. During investigations, police found no fingerprints that would point to a suspect. Cynthia claimed to see her attackers accompanied by 2 or 3 other individuals, but police were still unable to find any suspects. Cynthia continued to be harassed with threatening phone calls. Unfortunately, these calls were too short for police to trace. Police became skeptical of Cynthia's harassment after they set up a 24-hour surveillance at her home. With up to 14 officers and several days of surveillance, not a single incident occurred. But as soon as police left, Cynthia would report being harassed again. Her parents believed her attacker was holding back to make police suspicious of Cynthia. December 11th, 1985, Cynthia was found in a ditch, dazed and semi-conscious. She was 6 miles from her home. She was found wearing a men's work boot and glove. She was also suffering from hypothermia. Cuts and bruises covered her body. She also had a black nylon stocking tied around her neck, along with needle marks on her arm. Again, Cynthia had no memory of the attack. Agnes and her husband Tom decided to stay with Cynthia to help protect and keep her company. One night in April 1986, everyone awoke to noises and smoke. They found the basement in flames and the phone lines cut. Tom hurried to alert the neighbors, but saw a man standing on the curb. Tom pleaded with the man to call the fire department, but the man instead ran down the street. When police arrived, they began an investigation, but they were already skeptical of Cynthia, believing she was the one who caused the fire, as they found no evidence of a forced entry. Cynthia also happened to be walking her dog before the entire incident. Later, Cynthia's doctor, believing she had committed her to a local psychiatric ward. Otto Hack, Cynthia's father, stated that Cynthia admitted she knew more about the incidents than what she had said. She said she knew the identity of her attacker and would go after them herself. In October 1988, Cynthia's ex-husband Roy would receive a strange message on his answering machine. A raspy voice said, "Cindy, dead meat. Soon." October 26th, Cynthia came home from work and was attacked. She was found unconscious in her car, naked from the waist down. She also had another nylon stocking tied around her neck, and her hands and legs were tied up with a second one. Duct tape was also placed over her mouth to prevent her from breathing. She was in a coma after the incident, but survived. In the spring of 1989, Cynthia told friends and family that the attacks were decreasing and that she was feeling better for the first time in a long time. But sadly, on May 25th, 1989, 6 years and 7 months after the first threatening phone call, Cynthia disappeared. Her car was found at a shopping plaza in the neighborhood. There was blood on the driver's side door and items from her wallet scattered under the car. And 2 weeks later, her body was found lying in front of the abandoned house. Her appearance made it look like she was brutally murdered. Her hands and legs were tied behind her back, along with a black stocking tied tightly around her neck. But an autopsy revealed she died due to an overdose of morphine, flurazepam, and other drugs. Police concluded that she committed, and the case was closed in July 1989. Many of Cynthia's friends and family did not believe she committed. The coroner labeled her death as an unknown event. Many believe someone in Vancouver was getting away with murder. This has been Midnight Mysteries with Scenic Midnight. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again.